and welcome back to the Other Girls Club podcast. First of all, Happy New Year. Second of all, we have our first little solo podcast episode today, which means, yes, I have full custody of you today. You're all mine today, no guests, just you and me. For the sake of audio listeners, I'm coming to you live from my living room. We are currently sitting on my sofa, and we are going to have a good old chat today. We're having a little natter. First of all, I have just come directly from seeing Nosferatu. I went to the first showing in my local cinema. Oh my God, this is so incredible. I'm going to give you a spoiler-free review because I realise not a lot of you are going to have seen it probably before this video podcast comes out. So I'll give you a spoiler-free review. Then I want to go through my favourites of 2024. And then I want to have a little chat about, because I've been thinking about it a lot, about New Year's resolutions and whether they're more harmful or helpful. And I have like very split views in my own head. So I want to have another chat about that. But oh my God, let's start with Nosferatu. I have been waiting to see this film for so long. The Americans got it on Christmas Day. I thought we were getting it on Christmas Day, so I was planning to go between Christmas and New Year, and then I realised we get it New Year's Day, and I was just distraught. Now, this will be a spoiler-free review, but I will just say, this film is not for the faint of heart. This is not your average vampire film. This is a gothic horror, and it is gothic horror to its bloody core, and that's what I think makes it so beautiful. That's what I think makes it first day of the year, and I'm saying best film of the year already. That's what I think makes it so beautiful and so beautifully done, but it's not for the faint of heart. There was even parts where there was one particular part where I was like, I cannot believe they showed that, and I'm very surprised they did. So yeah, if you are of a sensitive disposition, this is probably not the film for you, but if you do love horror, and in particular if you love gothic horror, if you love gothic... Oh, hello. If you love the gothic genre, if you love gothic romance, it is going to be absolutely for you. Robert Edgar pays such beautiful homage to the genre, and he does it in such a modern way as well. Like, it doesn't feel like you're watching an outdated film. It feels like you're watching a modern film, but it is so true to the genre. And it feels modern, but it feels different to every other film that's out right now. And I think part of that is because of the lack of CGI. If there is CGI, it's very, very minimal. And I was so happy about this, especially after seeing Wicked, where they use very, very minimal CGI as well. And they use a massive amount of practical effects. They built the set. They even built Shiz University with the big lakes. And I just thought that made the film feel so magical. And it really works here in Nosferatu as well, but for different reasons. It made Wicked and the world of Oz feel really big and magical. But then in Nosferatu, it makes it feel more graphic, more gruesome. Like, when I'm looking at the practical effects, it makes it feel really scary and really real. So it was just really nice to watch a film and feel like it was just not completely swallowed up by CGI. I made notes. I made notes as soon as I come out the film, so I'm just reading off my bullet points. My first note was, whole cast eats, in brackets, Lily Rose Depp, body horror, insane. And it's true. There is not a single member on that cast that is not pulling their weight. They did the damn thing with this movie. It was perfect casting, every single person on it. Bill Skarsgård, I'm really hoping I've said his name right, Bill Skarsgård? Yeah. You expect him to be incredible, but the things that he does with his voice in this film, like, I would not be surprised if he has damaged his vocal cords permanently, because he has the things he does with his voice and the way he projects his voice, and then when you combine that with the way he carries himself as the Count, terrifying, absolutely terrifying. And then Lily Rose, who I genuinely think could be one of the most underrated young actresses we have right now. She is absolutely incredible, but particularly in this film, the way she uses her body, because obviously there are, we'll be spoiler free, but there are points in the film where it's a very physical performance, and the way she uses her body, not just her body as well, but her facial expressions, she is absolutely insane, and she manages to pull off a performance using her body and using her facial expressions that I have only seen attempted by a small number of actors. Incredible. I love that film so much. I genuinely want to go see it again, but there are so many other good films out that I want to see. Like, I really also want to see We Live in Time, because I've waited for that for ages, and I want to try and see Baby Girl as well, which I wasn't going to see. And then some of the clips have convinced me. But Nosferatu was amazing. If you love horror, if you love gothic horror, you need to go see it. You need to go give it a try. I'm going to post my full review on Letterboxd, so I will leave my Letterboxd account link in the description of this podcast if you want to go read the full review. Maybe you go to the movie and then read it. You do you, boo. But it is New Year's Day, which means 2024 is thankfully behind us. No more 2024. 2024 was a bit of a roller coaster year for me. I can't even lie. It was not... I mean, hey, it was the best of times. It was the worst of times. I'm glad to see the back of it. I need a fresh new start. But even though it was more of a lower year for me, I would say, the year definitely had more lower parts for me. It definitely was a sensational year for pop culture, particularly music as well. So when I was in the car the other day, I think I was driving home to Essex for Christmas, and I was in the car for an hour and a half. I was so bored. In my head, I made my, best of 2024 list in my head. So I'm going to share that with you. My top album of the year, Cowboy Carter by Beyonce. Look, no one's surprised. No one's surprised. We all know I'm Beehive till I die. And Cowboy Carter was my album of the year. But it's not just because I'm my blind allegiance to Beyonce. I'm going to give you my reasonings. Please, then, hear me out. Cowboy Carter is my album of the year, but it did take a while to grow on me. There are a lot of Beyonce albums where the first time I listen to them, I understand the project, I see all the layers, and it is just an experience, and I love it through and through, like Renaissance. Cowboy Carter took a little while to grow on me, and for me to see all the layers and the levels of the project and its impact. But once I had divulged into those layers and once I started to take apart the project through listening to it and giving it lots of tries and listening to it more and more, this is not me saying I didn't like it the first time I listened to it. I absolutely did. It was just more of an experience. But the more that I listened to it, the more I started to appreciate it for the project that it is. And the reason why it's my album of the year is because of how experimental it is within what is previously a very restrictive genre. And also a very exclusionary genre. We all know Beyonce has had struggles within the country genre and struggles within the Country Music Awards in particular. Something that I just absolutely loved about this project is, first of all, just what a mammoth of a project it is. It's a really long, full album, but also the story that it tells, not only through its songs, but also through the production of the whole album. So it breaks down country music into, I would say, 3 different sections, and that is more traditional country music, modern country music, and Beyonce's idea of country music. So your traditional country music being storytelling, like 16 Carriages, the cover of Blackbird, and then you've got more modern country music. You've got Spaghetti with Shaboozey, like that song, that kind of part of the album. And then you've got the end of the album, which is more how Beyonce sees country music and how it interacts with her life, her talent, and her artistry. And I think just not only are some of the songs so beautiful, sonically and lyrically, like Two Hands to Heaven is one of the most beautiful songs I've ever heard in my life. It's one of my new favourite Beyonce songs. To take that genre and to break it down like that and to package it in such a well-produced album is just incredible. And also what she has been able to do for older artists who she has sampled and given their flowers on the album, what she's been able to do for them and give them their flowers when they didn't get it when they should have done. That will always be one of the things I respect most about Beyonce as an artist. Her ability to pay homage to people who helped pave the way for her, but also continue to pave her own way in such a unique form. Absolutely amazing. Other albums that I loved, the Brat remix album. I'll tell you why I picked the remix album and not Brat, the original album. I loved Brat, the original album, really generally still do, but the remix album for me was a surprise. And I'll tell you why I was surprised. It was because I thought after Brat was so commercially successful and she released the remix with Billie Eilish, it would have been really easy for her to just release more remixes where you just slap a feature on or you change a verse or something like that. You add a new verse on, you know? But the thing that I really respected about the remix album of Brat was she did something which was a bit of a risk and a bit experimental. She took the album and she was able to give the songs, yes, new features, but not just a new feature to bring in new faces. It completely reimagined the songs. It gave them new life. Sometimes it gave them a whole new production. I'm thinking in particular, the one that really stood out to me was I Think About It All the Time. I don't really like the original version of that song on the original Brat album. It just doesn't sit well on my ears. Like, I don't know, I just don't like it. And then when I listened to it on the remix album, it gave it a whole new life. And it was able, I think, to convey the message of that story, the story in that song in such a more sensitive way. And I can really feel like Charlie's anxiety when I'm listening to the song of, you know, the weight and the pressure of all these things I want to do with my life, and I think about it all the time, like, do I have time? And that fear of running out of time. I just think what she did with that album was an amazing commercial success, and that is to be, you know, commended and celebrated. But then what she did with the remix album was who I think Charlie really is as an artist, which is experimental, fearless, and able to take risk, and it really pay off. And yeah, I think that's incredible. Other albums that I really love, I've got Prelude to Ecstasy by The Last Dinner Party. I think they're an incredible band, and the fact that that's their debut album, right? Incredible. What a Devastating Turn of Events by Rachel. Amazing album. If you haven't heard it, you need to. Eternal Sunshine by Ariana. And then Alligator by It's Never Heal by Doechii. Doechii is my new favourite obsession. I am so glad I get to see her next year at All Points East. And I got the tickets originally for Ray. And now I'm like so excited to see Doechii as well. Now, an album which I've put on here to discuss, but is not one of my favourite albums of the year, and I know it's going to be really surprising, is Torture Poets Department. Now, let me explain, because I know that I'm known to be a Swiftie. Let me just set for the record, I am a Swiftie. I am a Swiftie who didn't like Torture Poets Department. Hey, look, don't click off. Let me explain. I mean, if you were around the day it was released, this will be no surprise to you, because as soon as it was released and I listened to it twice, I was like, hey guys, I'm not sure if this is clicking with me. Now, I have given it so much more listens since then. It's not like I listened to it once and completely gave up on the album. I've listened to it a lot, and I actually love some of the songs on the album. I really love them. But the project as a whole, as an album, for me, did not click. It felt quite bloated. I felt like it didn't get to the point. I think sometimes less is more, and I just felt very, very overwhelmed by the project. I also think as well, look, like when it comes to music, when it comes to albums, it comes to our favourite artists, we all want different things from that project and from that artist. Taylor Swift is an artist that I have such respect for, and I have really high hopes from her. Maybe my standards are just really high when it comes to Taylor Swift, because I know she is incredible, and I know she is capable of doing amazing things. For me, with the Torture Poets Department, there wasn't enough of a growth in that album sonically compared to her previous works. She's not an artist that is unfamiliar with switching up genres and with, you know, changing her sound and all that sort of stuff. I'm not one of those people that's like, oh, all her songs sound the same now, because they absolutely don't. But after the Torture Poets Department, I am just left feeling a little bit like, for her next album, I really, just personally, for me to really click with the project, think I need to see an evolution in her sound and in her production, and just something to improve upon her artistry, because I think she is amazing, but I think she is at a point where she needs to evolve. But at the end of the day, as I said, we all want different things from music. We all expect different things from our artists, and we all enjoy music for different reasons. If you listen to the Torture Poets Department and you really enjoyed it and it's your favourite album of the year, good. Okay, cool. I'm not sitting here saying, no, you're wrong, that's shit, blah, 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 because I just feel like I'm past the point of looking at music like that, or like anything like that, to be honest with you. There's very few things that I'd look at and be like, no, you're wrong, you're bad, that's bad. I just think we enjoy music for different reasons, we enjoy projects for different reasons, and Torture Poets Department for me just didn't click. But if it did click for you and it's your album of the year, amazing. My top song of the year is Good Luck Babe by Chapel Roan. I did have a whole other list of songs that I absolutely love this year, but Good Luck Babe is definitely the top of my list. What an incredible song. And the way that song has like changed her life this year after the Coachella performance, sensational. And the fact that we have a song by a lesbian about heteronormativity, like, which is one of the biggest songs in the world right now, like that's incredible. My favourite book of the year was The 7 Year Slip. I don't know if it came out this year, but it is my favourite book of the year. I had a blast with this book. I cried my eyes out like a little baby. And I don't often, to be honest, I don't read a lot of fiction in general, but I particularly don't really go towards romance books. That's not really my thing. But I really enjoyed this. And I think it was because it wasn't just about this romance in the book, which is the driving plot of the story. It deals with the themes also of mental illness, suicide, and grief really, really well. It deals with them in a very delicate and very relatable way, in a way which it's sad, but you're almost kind of comforted by the emotions of this book, and it really just feels like a good human connection point, if that's like makes any sense whatsoever. And I think with all the things that I've watched and loved this year and listened to and loved, I think like it really has helped form that like human connection, like, because 2024 has been a really difficult year for me for a multitude of reasons, and when I've been going through those like individual things which have been like really personal struggles, I have really looked towards pop culture just as like an opening point to connection. And I think that's what makes it so special. That's what made me want to produce this podcast, because I always found that like pop culture and the things we enjoy together is so special. And I think it gets so looked down upon as just being like frivolous. But there's so much more to it to that. And I think we can start with pop culture and open up the doors to like a bigger conversation as well. And I really feel like that's what all of these projects have done for me this year. And I feel so grateful to find joy in like a lot of these projects and a lot of these works. But this year has been really hard. I mean, for a multitude of different reasons, as I said, like I obviously moved in on my own at the start of the year, and I knew it was going to be hard, but I think I underestimated just how long it would take for me to adjust. I think I'm at a point now where I'm actually just starting to not just be okay with it, but I'm actually enjoying it. And that feels amazing, because there was definitely a point in this year where I was like, I'm just never going to like living alone. And like, that's okay. You know, maybe I'll just never like living alone, but I can be okay with it. But I do feel like now I'm at a point where, okay, I'm actually enjoying my time here in the flat on my own. So that feels like progress, which is nice. But being alone in this flat has really exacerbated a lot of the other stuff that I've been going through this year as well. A lot of it is like very personal, which I probably like shouldn't talk about on the podcast, so you know, because I'll regret that later, so I won't. But I have spoken about it before, and I've said I have spent a lot of 2024 suffering with suicidal ideation and suicidal thoughts, and it's always really scary when to mention the S word, and it's always really scary to talk about this topic, because I don't want to panic people, and you never want to then feel like a burden. That's like a huge thing for me. And the thing about suicidal ideation and suicidal thoughts is I think it's so misunderstood, because I think a lot of people just immediately think, oh, you want to kill yourself, you want to die. It's like simple as that. And it's really not. It's like a lot of life. It's a lot more complicated, a lot more nuanced than that. For me, it's not that I want to die. It's more just like the thoughts in my head sometimes are so heavy, and trying to function while all of that is going on, and while I'm also carrying around the weight of everything that's ever happened, feels really, really heavy, that sometimes you do just think it would be so much easier to not exist. So it's not a want to die. It's a want to not have to live. That's the best I can explain it. And I was having a conversation with a friend about this before Christmas, and she agreed with me and said, you know, I felt like that before, and it's really hard to talk about, because again, yeah, you don't want to panic people, because naturally people get panicked when you start talking about how you don't want to live anymore, which is, I totally get, a normal response, but it does make it harder to express how you've been thinking and feeling. That then creates a further cycle where, because you don't talk about it, it gets heavier on your heart, and it gets bigger and more complicated in your mind. Whereas sometimes when you spell it out loud for yourself, you can almost deconstruct it you can almost deconstruct it in front of you, and it doesn't feel like this huge big puzzle in your head. So if you've ever felt like you've been suffering with suicidal ideation and suicidal thoughts, and you've been in a place where you think, oh, I can't talk about that because I don't want to worry people because they won't understand it, just know that there are so many people who will be thinking and feeling the same things that you are feeling, and there are probably people who you would never ever think would be thinking and feeling those things, because they also might be people who are going out doing amazing things and living life, and you would never ever know. I think I've had some amazing opportunities this year. I've been able to go do some incredible things, like I got to see Taylor Swift twice. Like that makes the year worth living for. But I'm being serious. Like, that I've been able to do some amazing things this year, and I'm so grateful to be able to live that life and do all of those things. But then in between that, there's been a lot of days where I've really struggled to get out of bed, and there have been days where I've not, and I've stayed in bed till like 2 p.m. and I feel so guilty and horrible about it, and I literally feel like I'm rotting. But I also can't physically bring myself to just stop And as much as I'm really grateful for all of the really clear-cut happy memories, like, you know, really nice holidays and big concerts and doing stuff like that, I think for me, something that has been really important is finding that joy and that casual magic in just the everyday. It's really corny, but I really love how light reflects off the water. I live near a waterfront and I love seeing the sunlight reflect off it. Just small things like that, because I know how much life can just suddenly turn on its head, and you might not get to experience all of those really big life privileges like concerts and holidays and stuff like that anymore. So being able to find that beauty in life in the everyday is really, really important, and that really has been a big driving force for me this year. So I know I talk a lot about finding joy, and yes, a lot of that is within the things that I get to go and do, and also my job as well, but also just trying to find it in the more mundane things every day, I really think is a big key to happiness. And also, I was having this conversation with Dan back at the start of the year, and I was talking about how I feel like maybe it's been accelerated for me because of my job, but I do feel like we have become way too introspective as a generation. Not even just our generation, to be honest, multiple generations, but I feel like as a culture we are too introspective and we're not extrospective enough. I think extrospective is a word. I might have to fact check that one, but what I mean is I feel like we look inward too much. I feel like we don't spend enough time looking outward and looking outside of our own little lives and our own bubbles. And I feel really conflicted about this, because part of me is like, well, yes, you are the main character in your life. You should be the most important thing in your life. Fully agree with that. I think especially for young women as well, it's so important to teach young women that, you know, you should be the priority in your life. You should seek out the life that you want and the things that you want in your life completely outside of a romantic partner. You know, your life should be for you. But then on the other side of it, I feel like because we are such a hyper individualistic culture, we are losing community. We are losing that ability to look outward. Whereas before, when as a society we used to be more sort of religion dominated, we used to naturally be more outward looking. Now, this is not me saying that, you know, we should all become more religious and whatever, because to be honest, I'm very agnostic myself. But yes, you can look outwardly to God, but I think more than anything, we need to look more outwardly to community, you know, whether that's like local communities where you live, whether that's at your church, whether that's, you know, your neighbours you live next door to. I think we just spend way too much time looking inward at ourselves and hyper fixating on ourselves and every little part of ourselves. And I really felt it at the start of this year, because I said to Dan, like, I spend so much time in my job looking at myself, hearing myself talk, thinking about my life and then reflecting on that to make content about that. So much of my existence is introspective, and I don't want to get lost looking into myself, because I think when you do that, your existence and your world starts to become very, very small, smaller and smaller by the day, because you forget to look outward, you forget to look around you and notice everything else that's going on around you. And I mean, hey, I'm definitely not, and hey, I'm not sitting up here on a high horse being like, oh, you know, I get it right. I'm constantly thinking about my community and my neighbours. I'm not. I do the exact same thing we all do, where I'm busy, I'm tired, I'm doing a lot on my own, and sometimes I will put my head down and I can only think about my life, you know. Absolutely, I'm not sitting on a high horse and saying I'm any better at this and navigating this, but it is something that I am becoming more and more aware of, probably accelerated because of the type of job that I have. It is just, like, I can feel it more. I can feel myself being more and more introspective by the day, especially being in this flat on my own. And it's just something that I'm more aware of. In 2025, I want to do more community focused. Not even work, but I want to live more community focused. It's not even about work and doing the work, whatever that means now, because it's been oversaid so much, but it's about being more community focused in who I am and my approach to everything that I do. That's something that I really want to make sure that I proactively do in 2025, because I've always been community focused in my work in terms of being a content creator. terms of creating content and even creating this podcast and the events and stuff that we've done. Like, I've always tried to be community-led online, and I think I just need to take that ethos and practice it more in my, like, real life. I don't want to be an inward person. I mean, yes, I do want to self-reflect, and I do want to work on self-improvement and, you know, live my life for myself, but I don't want to live my life in my own bubble. I think there's so much more to life, and I think there is a role within my life that I have to play in terms of, you know, servicing myself, but I do also think there is time and space in my life for my efforts and just general existence to be used in community. And I think this kind of need for this is probably similar to the feeling that people get when they want children. Like, you know, like, it's really hard for me because I've just never wanted kids. Like, I just don't have that instinct. I don't have that urge. But I imagine it's similar to the feeling people get when they want kids. That feeling of wanting to provide and do something outside of yourself. I have that feeling and that urge. It's just not in the form of wanting children. It's wanting to service my community. It's wanting to give out and not necessarily receive anything back. And it is hard, you know? But it is one of my 2025 goals. Not even just goals, but it's more of the lens that I want to approach all of my goals and the way that I'm moving through the world this year. Just looking at things through a lens of community. Because we do live just in such an individualistic society, and it's hard. It's really hard to try and resist individualism. It's really hard to say. It's really hard to resist individualism when you live in this country, particularly when you live in London as well. But I think we're just seeing it more and more. And I think even on the topic of New Year's resolutions, because I was going to talk about that next, but I feel like it relates very, very closely, because I feel like I'm seeing more and more resolution, self-improvement kind of content on social media in the last 2 weeks than I have in the years before. Like, there has always been some kind of, like, diet culture, New Year's resolution content, like, way before social media even existed. Like, that's not new, right? But I do feel like it's really ramped up this year, and it definitely just feels more visual. Like, the amount of people I'm seeing making vision boards is absolutely crazy. And I don't think it's inherently a bad thing. I think vision boards are, first of all, they can be a really cute evening with your friends. But secondly, I also think it's really important to be able to envision yourself in the future that you want. I think especially when you're someone who maybe lacks the confidence to be able to envision that for yourself, it really helps you to be able to visualize your goals and visualize yourself living in that life and know that you are worthy of it. I think that can be really amazing, a really amazing confidence boosting tool. And it can also really help discipline yourself and tunnel in on those goals that you really want to achieve. But, and this is a big but, I have seen so much of it, and it looks like so much work. This is not me being like, oh, I'm lazy, I'm afraid of working towards my goals. Absolutely not. But I think if you are putting so much work in to devise your goals that you're burning yourself out before you can even start making them, it's probably not the most sustainable way of hitting your goals. Like, I don't know. I mean, different things work for different people. So you might do all of this resolution planning, make a vision board, do all of that, and it might really motivate you, and that's amazing. Whereas some people might be really overwhelmed. And it might make your goals feel more unattainable, and you might burn yourself out before the new year has even begun. And I don't know how you guys feel about New Year's resolutions, because I feel like some people either really love them or really hate them. I'm somewhere, like, in the fence on the middle, where I do generally believe, like, I think if they work for you, amazing. If they don't, they don't. But I personally really like them because I like any good chance to, you know, say, right, it's a fresh new day. You can do with that what you want. But the thing is, that doesn't have to be New Year's Day. That could literally be a random Wednesday in February. Like, the concept of the new year is, for all intents and purposes, man-made. Did you know your New Year's Day didn't even used to be celebrated in January? I believe it used to be March. And everyone's lives and schedules are so individual, they're so different. Like, my parents work so much over the Christmas period, but by the time it comes to New Year, they're completely burnt out. My work gets really busy around Christmas time, particularly this year where I've been launching the podcast and stuff like that. I feel like I'm going into the new year absolutely exhausted, to be honest with you. I do not feel rested and recuperated and ready to start smashing some goals. I have goals that I want to achieve, yes, but I'm not going into the new year being like, right, 1st of January, it is military style operation. Like, if you've woken up on New Year's Day today and you don't have a list of goals that you want to achieve and you haven't started on your New Year's resolutions, that's absolutely fine. First of all, you don't have to do that. But also, if you do want to do it, but you're just feeling a little bit overwhelmed and a little bit tired at the end of the year, it's totally normal. And you can pick up your goals later on in January. You can do that in 2 weeks' time. You can do that mid-Feb. You can do that whenever works for you. It's quieting down a little bit now, but back before Christmas, it was, when would it have been? Like October, November. I just saw this huge wave of like winter arc content. And the crux of it was a load of people were focusing in for the winter, and they were going to use the winter and like the 90 days before the end of the year to like lock in and get ahead of everyone else for the new year. It made me feel really icky. I don't know, I'm somewhere in the middle of, if you want to lock in and focus on your goals and really get towards whatever goal you're working towards, amazing. But also as well, you don't have to get ahead of anyone for the new year, because it's not a race, it's not a competition. And a lot of people towards the end of the year feel tired, burnt out, they need to rest and recuperate. That's totally normal. And if it works for you, amazing. But also there's a fine line between it just being really toxic for everyone around you. And I feel like this is where, as individuals on the internet, we have to become really attuned to learning what content to engage with and learning what content to block out. Because if it works for someone and it motivates them, amazing. They are free to post that however they want. But we really have to learn to be attuned to what content is toxic for us to take in. I've set myself some goals for the new year. I kind of have tried to approach it from where do I want to be in a year's time and what long-term goals do I have, both for like just me personally as a person, but also for my career and work and stuff like that. And I've tried to break it down to, okay, so where do I want to be in a year? That's where I want to be. Where do I then need to be in 6 months' time? And what can I do each month? And then what can I do each day to make that more achievable? And like break it down into that more like achievable sort of way. Because it is a really corny and overused saying, but you are made up of the daily habits that you create. And I'm not a fan of a corny saying, but that one, they slap with that one because it be true. So my goals for January are: 1, leave the house for movement every day. So that can be leaving to go to the gym, swim, physio, or if I'm not going to exercise, to leave the house and go for a little stroll for like 20. That is because 1, I want to up my movement this year. I do feel like I'm not moving enough, especially as a wheelchair user. It is harder for me to move my body to the level that I should be to stay fit and active. And I can do home workouts, and I do home workouts, but the benefit that I get from leaving the house, I cannot get that from doing a home workout. I live on my own in a 1-bedroom apartment in London, and I'm so grateful to have this apartment. I do really love it, but I need to get out of here sometimes. Being on your own in a 1-bedroom apartment in London could turn the most sanest person insane. It's good to leave the house, okay? Second one, oh God, this is so embarrassing. I'm going to tell you about this. No more 24-hour challenges. Look, guys, here's a little thing about me. I would like to think that I'm an incredibly ambitious person. I have lots of goals, things that I want to achieve, and I do work incredibly hard when I can just sit down and focus. Unfortunately, I get distracted and I procrastinate so often that sometimes, every so often, I have to pull an all-nighter to get all of my work done. It's not good. It's a really bad habit that I've let carry on from university. I could pull this shit off when I was 20 or 19. I can't do it now. I'm nearly 30 and it's killing me. I need 8 hours of sleep every damn day. No more 24-hour challenges. Dan will be so pleased to hear that, because sometimes he'll get a text from me at 4 a.m. and be like, what are you doing? Are you just getting up or are you going to bed? I can never tell with you. So no more 24-hour challenges. Need to focus in the day. So the next one is start every day with a high protein breakfast and then a portion of protein with every meal. That is to help with my energy levels, because I do struggle to eat proper timed meals. My relationship with food is very, I don't know how to explain it. Like, I just kind of forget that I have to eat sometimes. It's not good. I don't want to be that way. And I'm starting to feel like I'm feeling very, very tired and my energy levels are very, very low. So that is where the protein is coming in. Next one is no Deliveroo. I have deleted the Deliveroo app off my phone because I think I have become slightly addicted to it since living in London. It wasn't a problem before I lived here because we didn't have Deliveroo where I lived before. And so I didn't have to think about it. The idea that I would get a takeaway would be such a treat because you could only really order like directly from Domino's or the Chinese or something. But I can literally just get anything I want delivered to my door in 10 minutes. And I don't like the concept of like ordering a Deliveroo or being able to, and like the commercial ability of like that whole industry just makes me feel so icky. And yet I'm no angel. I'm addicted to it. I have such a Deliveroo addiction. I need to stop. So I've deleted the app. I'm doing no January Deliveroo. I'm not doing dry jam because that's actually not really that much of a challenge for me because I don't really drink that much. So I'm doing no Deliveroo jam. And then the last one is read/listen to 4 books, which is quite achievable for me, but I just need it as a goal to remind me to read or listen to books sometimes because I love reading and listening to books. But sometimes I just forget to. The way that I've set those January goals up specifically is they're things that are very attainable in January. Yes, they require work and they require me to work towards the goals, but they are things that are going to get my year off to a good start. They're not the be all and end all of what I want to achieve this year, but they're the things that are going to help me create good habits to achieve my bigger goals. Also as well, I think when you're thinking about the year and what you want the year to look like for you, don't forget to have a little bit of fun as well. Like me and the boys last night, they came over for New Year's Eve and we made 2025 bingo cards. So fun. We did half of the boxes as predictions, so like pop culture predictions. One of my I'll tell you one of mine. It was, I predict that AI is going to ruin a court case and get a court case thrown out. I can just see that happening. I can see us going in that direction, unfortunately. And then we filled the other half of the boxes with like fun goals we want to do this year. So not like self-improvement ones, but like fun ones that we want to do. So one of mine was make a tiramisu from home. One of Dan's was he wants to bake something in the air fryer. We are all obsessed with air fryers. We're nearly 30, so yes, of course we're all obsessed with air fryers. We all got one for Christmas, and it's our new obsession. But yeah, don't forget to have a little bit of fun. What's the point in doing all of this self-improvement to lead a better life if you don't live a fun, joyful life in between hitting all of those goals? Like yes, self-improvement is a great thing. It's an admirable thing. There are goals that you should want to work towards and improve on. But also, life is for living. Do not forget to have fun this year. Make sure you chase your joy this year, whether it's in, small little ways every day or making sure you do something you really want to do, like go travel to this place or go see this person in concert, whatever it is, in the small and little ways. Your life is there to be lived. And at the end of the day, only you can know what you want from your life when that comes to joy and whether that comes to big self-improvement goals. Only you know what you want for your life. Only you know what way is going to work for you to achieve that. It might be a really disciplined military style way of goal setting, or it might be a little bit more relaxed. It might be setting the resolutions and the goals for your year in February. You might need to rest in January. That is absolutely fine. Only you know whether that works for you. The most important thing is that you are doing what works for you so that it is sustainable. There is absolutely no point in you waking up today panicking because you've not set any goals and you're seeing people online already going out for runs, already hitting all of these goals and closing the rings on their Apple Watch. If you need to rest, if you're suddenly setting goals because you're panicked because you've seen everyone else is already hitting their goals and going for 10k runs and doing this sort of stuff, and you're doing it as a panic response because you feel you should be doing something, that is not sustainable. You are not going to be able to sustain that throughout the rest of the year. So take a step back, think about where you want to be in a year's time, think about where you are now and what you need to do to be able to get to that point. Are you ready to start some goal setting journeys, or do you need to take a little bit of a break? Now, there is a line here between looking after yourself or mollycoddling yourself. You do need to have that self-intuition and be able to be brutally honest with yourself and say, no, I'm being too easy on myself. I am ready to start setting some goals and I do have the capacity right now to be working through them. It is important that you know when you need to start putting in some work and when you need to rest. But I think all of that would just be some of my big advice for anyone looking to have a better year this year, because God knows I am. I really want 2025 to be my best year yet. I at least want it to be better than 2024, and I'm trying to really set myself up to actually have a better year and not just bolt out of the doors of 2024 into 2025 and just really kick it off with adrenaline and then completely taper off and lose my energy towards the halfway through the year. I really want to have like a sustainably good year for myself. And my advice to you, the things that I'm prioritizing would be: 1, knowing that timeframes are literally man-made. If I need more time to rest and recover in January, that's fine. We can go harder later on in the year if we have to. 2, look outwardly. Don't just think of yourself and think inward. Look outwardly and think of the world outside of your life. And then 3, chase joy. Do not forget to chase joy amongst all of the goal setting. Speaking of chasing joy, I'm going to end this podcast by asking myself the question that I normally ask every guest that comes on, which is, how am I chasing joy this week? And I'll be honest, I have no idea what day it is because it's been the Gooch week, and it's that week where you just have no idea what day it is and what's going on. It's a Wednesday. We're halfway through the week. My most exciting thing I had this week was Nosferatu. That really was how I was chasing joy this week, making sure that I get the time to go see it because I've been looking forward to it so long. And if you love horror and if you love particularly gothic horror, I definitely recommend you go see it because it was just phenomenal. But yeah, thanks for listening. Happy New Year, and I will catch you in the next episode.